Hey guys, is anybody here yet? I don't think so. I'm starting a little bit early. Let me get move these cups out of the way. So yeah, I was eating Zaxby's, as you can see. Let me get a link going here. Let's see, it's like nobody's here yet. I'm a little early, so no big deal. Oh, somebody's here. Somebody is here. Hello, hello. It's awesome. We've already got one person. I hope we get more people than we did last time. Leonardo, how you doing, man? Welcome. Thanks for dropping by. I plan to be here for maybe an hour or so. It just depends on how big of an audience I get, how much you guys want to talk, and what kind of questions I get. But the goal and the purpose here is really just to kind of give everybody a chance to chat with me, get to know me a little bit. I already did one of these when the channel was smaller, and it went really well. It was a limited audience, but it was really good, and we had a good discussion about a lot of things. I got to kind of explain some specific subjects. Thank you. It's fun. I mean, I've been loving it. I haven't had any major complaints from anybody about anything. I feel like people are liking what I'm doing, and so it makes me want to keep going. And I hope that it stays as good as it is. I hope that it keeps growing. So thanks for your support, and keep watching. I've got some cool stuff coming. I'm trying to line up some more interviews with some other singers that are a little better. I mean, not that the guys I haven't already interviewed aren't well known, but some people that are even more well known, and hopefully you can enjoy that and get some more perspective. It's very different talking to a voice, like a singer, when I'm a teacher, hearing the difference in perspectives from people that are actually out there doing it. I had a chat with Jim in my the last interview that I did beforehand, where we kind of went through it. It's easy for me to sit on my throne as the voice teacher and kind of say, oh, well, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. But the truth is that I'm not in the fray, so to speak. The general of the military, or whatever you want to call it, isn't necessarily the one in the trenches. So you can only know so much about what it's like to be in the kind of in the middle of all of it and having to maintain your voice. And I've had performing cycles in college and whatnot, and I've performed shows and had to deal with maintaining my voice throughout that framework and throughout that course of time as well. So I know a little bit about it, but I've never gone on like a world tour, or like from country to country and sort of going and performing all over the place and not getting much sleep and sleeping on a bus and like that kind of thing. I've never done that, and I don't know if I necessarily want to. Hey, how's it going? Hey, John, what's up? Yes, I do have a girlfriend, and hopefully she is watching. My girlfriend's name is Rainey. Hey, Rainey, I love you. Hopefully she's here. Have some Tony Harnell and Michael Kiske would be awesome to take here. Yeah, I've never listened to either of those singers. Now maybe I know who they are. Can you tell me what bands they sing for? Because I don't recognize them by name, but I may have listened to music. So 3am. Yeah, I'm a late time person anyway. I'm gonna take the glasses off. That glare is bugging me. I'm a late night person myself. So 3am for me is like, I'm probably finish up my videos on Tuesdays at 3:00. So I get it. I've been commenting here. Yeah, you do comment a good bit, and I try to respond when I can. At the beginning, I was responding to everything, but like what's happened is, as the channel's grown, there's just so many comments. Like I'll see one and I'll say, okay, well, I need to get back to this guy, and then the next thing I've got 20 more, and I just I forget. But I try to respond as much as I can. You usually have really, really good insight from your comments, and I like responding to them because they're usually really well thought out. So, man, keep it up. It's awesome. So John is here. Nicholas Dillard. Is this the same Nicholas Dillard who is one of my voice students? I think it is. Okay. Yeah, I've never listened to either of those, so I'll have to keep that in mind. I have a list, probably. I don't know. I probably have 50 singers that people have recommended. People I've never even heard of, so I've got a big list of people to listen to. So Nicholas is one of my actual voice students at my job. He is a tenor. He's like, what, 15? I think you're 15. I don't remember. 15 or 16, because I think because you have a job, you have to be 16 to work in Georgia. So yeah, he's one of my voice students. So how you doing, man? I missed you today. He didn't make his lesson today, so but he'll be back next week from what I hear. So good to see you, Justin Beaver. So John, I've already mentioned him in a couple of my videos already. He is one of my fellow coworkers. He is he's primarily a guitar teacher. He also takes voice lessons with me. Great guy, amazing guitarist. One of the best guitarists I know personally. You guys should check him out. He's on Instagram. Just look up his name. It's spelled there in the chat. So he's awesome. Can't say enough good things about him. So we're gonna be here probably for an hour now. If the live stream blows up and we have 100 people here, I may stay a little bit longer. It just depends. I don't have super chats yet, in case anybody was wondering. Not yet. I'm not quite big enough. I'm halfway there, but I don't quite have super chats. Hey, Spaceman Joe, what's going on? I've seen a couple of your comments on my videos as well. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for helping the channel grow. Her demonstration. So I actually, there is another YouTube channel that I made back when I was in college. It's Zachary Ansley, not Zach Ansley, and it's like it's old though, but it has a lot of recordings of me singing like classical pieces, like from recitals in college and whatnot. I don't use it anymore. I think I lost the login to it or something like that, because I looked at it the other day and it used to have like no subscribers, and I think maybe some other people have found it and it picked up like 20 or something. It has a couple of videos, like 1,000 views of just like, because what happens is when you're in the when you were in college and you're in like the classical setting, a lot of the best ways to sort of learn pieces that you're studying is by hearing other people do them. So like in particular, I did a piece called With Joy, the Impatient Husbandman by Haydn. And it's not incredibly commonly performed. And so like my video was like an example of it being performed. So people probably listen to it for that, watch it for that reason. But I don't use that, channel's defunct. I use this one instead. As far as doing performances now, I'm not opposed to it. I don't like, I'm not a big fan of demonstrating the things that I talk about for students. I mean, even when I do my live lessons, like you can ask Nicholas, I don't really do a whole lot of demonstrating. And the main reason is that I don't want people trying to sound like me. And because I'm a firm believer in the idea that everybody has their own voice and everybody's voice is distinctive and that should be developed. And the worst way to do that is to imitate the people that you hear. So, Nicholas. Yeah, I want you to learn your own voice rather than try to, make mine your model. So I don't mind demonstrating things, like I do it every now and then in my videos, but I'm not a big fan of like going over the top and just singing everything and saying, oh, sound like me, do what I'm doing. Because the truth is, my approach, I'm a baritone. So if I'm teaching a tenor or a soprano, like the approach that my voice takes because of its physical configuration, it might not work for someone else. So I take the approach more of sing for me, let me hear you, and I will kind of, work at it from that angle. I mean, I don't have a problem singing. If you look me up on Instagram, systolic1, @systolic1, I'll type it in the chat. That kind of has, my like things, pictures I take throughout whatever, but it has some videos, and I've seen some of my coworkers perform, and every now and then I'll post a video singing in the car. Like I did like Opeth, I did a Pain of Salvation song, but it's nothing super fancy or edited or anything. It's just me singing in the car while I'm on the way to work, because the drive in Atlanta is really long. Let me get hang on one sec. I need to find the link to this because I think somebody else wants in. Here it is. Okay. I can see myself. That's so weird. All right. Like an echo of myself when I watch myself on there. I found the link so I could send it to some other people. All right. So feel free to hit me with your questions, guys. Like, tell me what you want to know. Tell me what you want me to talk about. I will discuss anything. That is why I am here. I'm going to send a link to a few other people that might be interested in seeing this. Some of my current online students that I picked up, because I have picked up quite a few just from this channel. So yeah, if you've got any questions for me, like if you want me to like just about me as a person, if things I like, things I do, if you want to know like my teaching method when I'm at my job, if you want to know my background, like ask me anything. Like you can question from a newbie. Would you say anybody can sing relatively well with good technique, or some people just not sing good? Okay, that is okay. All right. How do I want to be diplomatic about this. Like I don't want to say anything that's too offensive, but simply put, no. But anything like yes or no answers always have more behind them, and I'll explain myself a little bit. I believe that you are born with a certain degree of natural aptitude for music. And by aptitude, I don't mean the ability to work for it. I mean like the amount of the ear that you have. And I say this because I run into students. How do I say this? It's hard to discuss this. I've had students that love music, that want to sing so badly, and they work so hard at it. But after lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson after months, they still can't even hear the differences between two pitches, even though we'll spend countless lessons just focusing on giving them the ability to understand the difference between the way one note is higher than the other one. And there's something that they don't hear. And so that is something that you have to have internally to some degree to be able to be an accurate singer. It doesn't mean you can't be a musician. It doesn't mean that you can't play an instrument, because that, like, I'm thinking of one student in particular that's become very, very good on a different instrument. But for singing, the aptitude just wasn't there. And it's not their fault. It's just something that you're born with to a degree, I think. And I don't now here's the other side of that. I think that you can have a little bit of talent or a little bit of an ear and grow that by working on it. Like if you've got an ear, you can develop. Now, it also depends on which genre of music you're going into. Like in opera, for example, classical, they want big voices for the most part, really loud. Like I've got a big voice, so my voice would fit in that, but not everyone does. But to develop the size of my voice, it took a lot of training. Now, not everybody wants to do opera, so as long as you can fit your voice into whatever archetype you want to sing in, you'll be fine. As long as you can get those fundamentals and kind of learn the basics and develop your ear. Your ear has a lot more to do with your ability to sing, I think, than anything else, because the muscles can be trained. That kind of thing can be developed with good habits. So I think the most important thing is developing your ear. How good of an ear do you have? So good question. All right, Leonardo, I was watching a video from Steve Perry in 1981. He's saying, so relaxed. Yeah, I think he's lost some of his range. Several reasons. Very rarely do people retain high ends of their range as they get older. And I briefly discussed this in the James Labrie video I made a few months back. As you get older, the larynx hardens more and more and more. And as you reach a certain age, it becomes brittle. And the hardness of the larynx, the hardness of cartilage in general, is what maintains the integrity of the structure. So like your bones in your arm are really strong. Like it's hard to break them. Well, cartilage never quite gets as strong as bone, at least not the cartilage in the larynx. And it's not quite as stable and as sturdy. And as it continues to harden, as you age, it becomes brittle. And kind of like the way that your bones become brittle. And so the structure isn't quite as stable. And as you age and the cartilage weakens, then you lose the ability to sort of maintain the strength of what your voice was when you were younger. So probably, 81 was what, 37 years ago. So, I would imagine he was in his 20s. Usually men start seeing declines in their vocal mechanisms. Like when you start seeing declines in the larynx is usually in the late 50s, early 60s. You start hearing like a widening of the vibrato. You start hearing kind of like a more airy sound come over the top of it. And it's just because the larynx isn't as strong as it was. So I haven't done like a side-by-side comparison myself, but from what you're telling me, it's not uncommon for people to lose their range. I mean, Placido Domingo, one of the greatest dramatic tenors ever, he lost a huge portion of his range in his 60s, and now he's completely changed his repertoire because of that. And it's not because of anything he's done wrong as a singer. He's one of the best technicians in the terms of the voice that exists. So, I mean, that's a quick example for that. Anonymous, no, I have not checked out ICX Vortex. I don't remember that comment. I may have read it, but I don't remember it. So if you give me a rundown of what it is, I'll check it out. BT, have you developed any opinion on the dilemma posed to many progressive metal bands? Dilemma, either writing vocals with a range far out of their comfortable range and are mixing clean and harsh vocals. Okay, so I'm of the opinion that you should, as a vocalist, you should always write your own vocal lines because only you know what's comfortable. I also don't think it's necessary to push your range outside of what your inherent ability is. In the classical sense, we have a term called Fach, and Fach is German for class or group. And in classical literature, we have we have a classification that your voice fits into, and composers know that if the role that you're trying to write for is going to be this voice type or this Fach, they know to keep the pitches within a certain range. Now, that doesn't mean that the voice can't extend outside of what your basic range is, but every configuration has limitations. It's just like a coloratura soprano can't sing bass notes, as an extreme example, and a super low bass can't sing soprano notes. Every voice has limitations. And I think that what happens with a lot of progressive singers, because of the genre and that whole virtuoso concept, I think that they try really hard to push their voices beyond what their natural sort of capabilities are. And to do that a little isn't terribly bad, but I think that when you really start reaching outside of it and going way outside of what your range can naturally do, I think you run into problems there. Mixing clean and harsh vocals. I mean, if you've seen the video I've done on harsh vocals, there's no science that I've seen that is convincing to me that harsh vocals are sustainable at all. So I until I see something to the contrary, I don't have any way of saying that there is a way to mix harsh vocals into your singing safely at all. I mean, if the study comes out and it shows that there is, then I'm definitely down for it if there's good science behind it. But until then, there's nothing that convinces me of it at this point. So that I don't really see it as a dilemma. I see it as pretty cut and dried, and I see it as, if you do harsh vocals, that's just a risk you have to take, and it's something that you have to accept, that all the science, whether you look at it from the voice actor's perspective or the singer's perspective, any way of utilizing the voice, the orator or speaker's perspective, public speaker, everything says that the harsh stuff's damaging. So unless there's something specifically about singing that hasn't been discovered yet, then that's just kind of how it is. I mean, there's a reason that voice actors are all in unions. They need specific conditions because they do all sorts of crazy things with their voices. And if it were up to the directors, they just run their voices ragged, when the truth is that your voice really can't sustain that kind of stuff very well for very long. All right, Spaceman Joe, do you listen to any Corey Taylor from Slipknot and Stone Sour? I think it's this. I've heard Corey Taylor's name recommended a lot. He's one of the top recommended people. I've only listened to a minimal amount of Slipknot back when I was in middle school. So I don't really know a whole lot about him. Hey, Rainey, I love you. It's my girlfriend. She's here. She said she wanted to drop in on the stream. So there she is. Say hello, everybody. So we're 20 minutes in. We got people here. What's my favorite band? Ooh. Well, let me answer the next question. I'll get back to the favorite band. The genre itself more expects extreme vocals. That's a problem with sorry, instrumentalists, you're going to get mad. Instrumentalists don't know, people who are predominantly instrumentalists don't know anything about singing. Very rarely do I run into an instrumentalist that says oh, I'm taking the vocalist into consideration when I write this. Most of the time, progressive music is written by the instrumentalists and the vocalists contribute. So I think it's a problem with the way that progressive music is written and the expectation of virtuosity. Like I said, it's something that needs to change, or else you're not going to have any progressive metal singers and rock singers that have sustainable careers. You just won't. I mean, there's a lot of great singers. My favorite singers right now, I don't foresee any of them being able to sustain their vocals into their mid 40s, like early 50s. I just don't see it. I don't see any way based on their technique to make it possible unless there's like really heavy studio modification and they don't tour. Those are the only ways that I could see. So it's something that needs to change in the perspective of the songwriting. I think that the vocalist should have much more of an involvement in the way that the music's written, rather than just having like a, saying just, oh, well, here's this music we wrote, we want you to sing it. This is what we got you to sing. I think that a lot of that is probably that is kind of what's caused a lot of singers' issues over the course of time in general. What's your favorite band? So I could cop out and say that my favorite musician of all time is Johannes Brahms. That's kind of not the that's not really a fair answer though. My favorite band, it's tough. You'd have to look at it from a bunch of different perspectives. Like one, so the band that got me into progressive rock, well, I was listening to Pink Floyd as a kid, like really young, but they're not my favorite band by any stretch. I would say that the band that got me into progressive rock and progressive metal was Tool when I was like early teens, like late middle school, early high school. And that kind of moved into Dream Theater. I became a Dream Theater fan after that. Dream Theater has been a band that I've listened to for forever, and they have such a huge discography that I listen to them, a lot by default. But since then, like Pain of Salvation is one of my all-time favorites for sure. Let's see. I really like Opeth. I wouldn't say that they're my favorite, but Pain of Salvation is definitely one of my favorites. I would say that I love Leprous. I think I love Leprous's music. I discovered them in the past 2 or 3 years. I'm a big fan of them. Native Construct. I mean, I know those guys personally. I love their music, but they've only done one album, so it's hard to like gauge the scope of their work beyond just one album. Caligula's Horse. I think they're one of the better progressive bands right now. But if like gun to my head, I've got to pick one. Probably Pain of Salvation, I would say, probably, because I think that their discography, like I think that if you look at the time frame of their music between like The Perfect Element and B, like that era of their music was just amazing. I mean, and they've had some great stuff outside of it as well, but like those 3 albums to me were just spectacular. And then their acoustic album they did in the middle was spectacular. So Pain of Salvation, I would say is my favorite if I had to pick one. Okay, so let's see. Phil Anselmo from he had an amazing range. I've heard him sing. I've never seen him live or anything, but I've listened to a lot of Pantera when I was younger. So I mean, I know he's got a phenomenal voice. I don't know how well he carried it live and how well it lasted. Maybe he's someone I should do a video on. Messiah Marcolin, never heard of him. Chris Barretto. I feel like I've heard the name, but I don't know where he's from. John Anderson. Okay, so all right. Full disclosure, I'm not a John Anderson fan at all. I don't like the way his voice sounds. That's just my opinion. But I will say this. It's kind of hypocritical for me to say that because I advocate for people to stick to their guns and do what's natural and write their own music. And yeah, he has been a huge contributor to the composition, and he sings in a way that his voice kind of naturally sits. So his career's been really long for it. So, I mean, I don't like the way his particular voice sounds, but still, I mean, even so, like, I think that he's done a good job of keeping his voice healthy. So kudos to him in that sense. Yes just hasn't grabbed me. There's a few things of Yes that I really like, but for the most part, their music just never really hasn't grabbed me. I don't know why. Rody Walker. So Rody Walker is a perfect example of what happens when you run your voice ragged and you try to break all the rules. And he's suffering for it now. Last I heard, they're having to cancel something big, something major, because his voice is in bad shape and he's destroyed it. You can't, like, people that try to say, oh, I can do whatever I want my voice. I'll be an artist. I'll sing this and I'll do that. Okay, I get it. But like, let's say that you touch the stove, okay, and your hand is burning. Do you just hold on to that because you really need to grab that stove for whatever? reason? No, your body tells you you're hurting me, you're hurting me, let go, you're hurting me. So when people take their voice and they go, oh, I can just push past this even though my voice is hurting. I'm screaming and it hurts, but I can just willpower this. Like that, it's destructive. I mean, it's completely destructive, but people take the idea of art and they put a pedestal on that above hygiene and health. And so my goal in all this is to kind of blend the two together. I want you to be able to have artistic integrity, but I want you to be able to make conscious, healthy choices so that you can make your music longer. It benefits no one but yourself and your listeners. Like it does nothing but stand to better your ability to contribute as a musician. So when people are just like, oh, I'm going to like, I use Adele all the time. Like when people say, oh, Adele's a great singer, yeah, she's a great singer. She's a great performer. But people want to know like, oh, why is her voice not the same as it was? Well, it's because she deliberately did things knowing that it was bad for her, and everyone tried to tell her. Rody was the same way. Rody has always been really rebellious. Like, from everything I've ever heard about him, he's like super rebel. So, but he's done all these things that he knows are bad for you. But now his voice is gone, and he's having major problems. His voice will probably never be the same again. From what the descriptions were, it sounded like it could have been muscle tension dysphonia. It could have been nodules. It could have been a hematoma. I mean, we don't really know, but it was, from what it sounded like, it was a major injury that he suffered. So you've got to take care of yourself if you want to be able to sing for a long term. Your voice is an instrument, but your voice is a part of your body. You got to take care of it. Favorite band is Devin Townsend Project. If you're wondering if he sustained his voice, he has. You want a good example, listen to his newest live album. I did a video on Devin Townsend, and I think that he uses a lot of tension, but I think he's dialed back on a lot of that, probably because that stuff does wear on you. The thing about live albums that you got to be careful with, though, and it's kind of the thing I struggle with when I make videos as well, is that a lot of those are overdubbed or they have like pitch correction on them in post-processing. So you got to be careful. Sometimes live albums aren't the best indicator. Now on the flip side, I can use a live album and determine some of the physical things that they're doing in terms of their technique. So the sound isn't necessarily indicative of the technique, if that makes sense. And a good voice teacher, not that I'm great, but a voice teacher that does what they're supposed to do, we call ourselves trusted pairs of ears. A good trusted pair of ears is going to be able to make the distinction between what you see and what you hear. Sometimes things can sound great, but they're unhealthy. And so you need to be able to make that distinction. Check out, I can post any links to ICS Vortex videos. Check out song, I don't know how to pronounce that. Isolated track from Dimmu Borgir. Oh, Dimmu Borgir. I haven't listened to them in ages. Yeah, if you want to post a comment on one of my videos of linking something, I'll check it out. First 5 albums are flawless. I guess you're talking about Pain of Salvation. I love them. They're great. Blackie Lawless, no idea who that is. So you got to give me band names. It's a better idea. I could probably tell you who they are. Nothing. Yeah. So Rainy's she's into prog, but she's into the more instrumental prog. So like I'll introduce her to something new, but she's like, oh, it's got singing in it. It's funny because I'm her boyfriend and I'm a voice teacher, but she's not into vocals. So I don't know. It's cool though. She's got great taste in music. So it worked out. That's one of the things that drew me to her in the first place, is her taste in music. What do you think about death growling? And is there an actual way to do it? No, there's no way to do it without consequence. I made a video on it. Check it out for a little bit more in depth. Until I see science that conclusively shows that you can be raspy and growly without hurting yourself, I'm not buying it. If I have to repeat that a million times, I will. So many people try to advocate this healthy way of doing harsh vocals, but all of the science is like, it's not there. Like, it's pseudoscientific. One of the biggest signs of pseudoscience is people using like terminology that isn't deemed academic, terminology that isn't recognized by people, professionals in the industry who study it, like, academics. So if you look at some of these people advocating they can make harsh vocals safe, they literally have buzzwords that they came up with to describe these different things. But then when you look at the science, they talk about like singing from your false folds. Like you can't sing from your false folds. Just false folds don't make sound. It's a mucous membrane on the inside of your throat that kind of sits and sort of shapes it doesn't make sound. So when people say that you sing from your false folds, it's not true. It's not scientifically possible to sing from your false folds. The only things that make sound are your vocal folds. So when you see things, people like all these people saying you can do harsh vocals by using your false folds, it's pseudoscience. It's not true. So when I start seeing some actual like peer review, some actual science trying to find ways to safely make harsh vocals and growl and all that kind of thing, then I'll be behind it. But as an educator, I'm not going to teach people things that have no backing scientifically, right? That's just like, I'm not doing that. So it's irresponsible. And especially with people charging like $300 an hour, literally, to teach people to scream safely, like it's a scam. Like, I'm not buying it. Chris Bretto is currently in Monuments. I recommend Eye of the Destroyer. Okay, I've heard of Monuments. I don't think I've listened to them though. Okay. Huh. Rainey, I saw she said she's let me hear a lot of stuff. I'll have to listen to it again. I'm not sure. I don't remember it. Chino Moreno. Chino Moreno, he's got a very covered sound. He puts a lot of air through. And I remember seeing a live performance of them like 12 years ago where it was just abysmal. I don't know if he's gotten better live now or not. I haven't seen it, but my last impression of him live was it was really bad. I love the Deftones. The Deftones are one of my favorite bands when I was growing up. Like I love Deftones. So don't get me wrong. That I'm not knocking the band. I just think that his technique is probably aided, probably very heavily aided by production. I will just say that. But I have to see a more recent live performance to give a really true kind of analysis of him. Maybe he's someone I should do an analysis of at some point. Ronnie James Dio. Yeah, he's another one on my list. I will get to him, I promise. I know he's huge. Dio was a triumphant, huge voice. He's definitely someone that I need to talk about. I think I'm about to sneeze. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry about that. If it clipped the mic, I'm sorry, guys. This mic's really sensitive. All right. Hey, Sierra, what's up? So Sierra is another one of my coworkers. She's also a voice student of mine. She's awesome. We're working on some technique stuff right now. Leonardo Rivera asks, how long should a daily practice routine be? Great question. So I'm of the opinion that you should not sing for more than an hour and a half a day, period. If you think of it like being a runner, like if you run marathons, that's cool. If you're just jogging for 15 miles, you can train your body to do that. But if you're sprinting, you can't do that for very long. And if you try to make yourself sprint all day or for more than your body can handle it, you'll give out. So it's the same thing with singing. Think of singing as the sprinting, right? So walking/jogging is your standard talking, right? If you talk a lot for your job or whatever, that's like jogging. But singing is the peak of athleticism of the voice. So if you're sprinting all the time, you're going to burn it out. So my opinion is that I do, like I say, 20 to 30 minutes of a warm-up, and then an hour of applied voice usage. If that means if you have to play shows, I would say take breaks, like have an intermission if you can. Do whatever you can do to mitigate the amount that you're singing in like straight through. I don't recommend, like at the most, I'd say use your voice 2 hours a day. And I say this from personal experience because when I was in college, I actually had a vocal injury because I was overusing my voice. I was singing for 5 hours a day sometimes because of all of the work that I was having to do with ensembles and choirs and like solo work and voice lessons and opera performances and practices. I was using my voice too much, and I actually had a vocal injury from that. So I learned about how to maintain your voice from actual voice therapists and voice doctors. So that was a big thing to me. Don't sing more than like at the most 2 hours a day. So let's see. We've got what's up next. So many questions. It's awesome. I'm glad to see you guys here. Tell your friends. Let's get everybody here. Thoughts on Lemmy? I think I talked about Lemmy the last live stream. That sound is I don't even know what he's doing to make that sound. I honestly don't. I know that his voice fell apart before he passed away, but Yeah, I that sound is definitely not sustainable. I'd have to really like listen to even be able to tell what he's doing. I know the sound is like there's a lot of rasp over the top of the pitch, but it's definitely not a model for how to have a healthy, sustainable voice. Now, if you're trying to create that specific sound and you know the risks, then by all means go for it. But you'll never have me coaching someone that way. Let's just put it like that. Rainey, you're a great girl. Yes, she is. Rainey is an amazing girlfriend. She is wonderful. I'm very lucky. Anonymous, I'll post Vortex's links later. I really huge person, singer, big voice. We think about Paul Rodgers, a free Bad Company. I've actually never listened to Bad Company or Free. Queen, I don't know. I'm not familiar with him. Thoughts on Gentle? I love Gentle Giant. I absolutely love Gentle Giant. They're one of my favorite prog bands, like all classic prog bands. I've discovered them a long time ago, and I'm a huge fan of them. Vocalist Candlemass. I'm wondering why his voice is with her. I'd have to listen to it. I'm not sure. And yes, Rainey did the puzzles. Yes, we did. Well, she did most of them, but we did some of them together, and she put them up. I'm going to decorate with this with some more things that are like I'm a fan of, so you guys will have some more stuff to look at while I'm talking. But yeah, we did the big puzzle right there together, and she put it up. All right, so cigarettes and Jack Lemmy's technique, yeah. Spencer Sotelo of Periphery, the same issue of users was. Okay, so actually, I have some personal experience with Spencer. He probably doesn't remember this, but it's been about 6 or 7 years. I actually talked with him on Facebook, and we were talking about doing like he was trying to do like a solo project or something, and he wanted somebody to do some tracking with him. And I messaged him about it, and he sent me some old tracks and stuff that he was trying to do, and we talked about singing a good bit. This is back when I was still in college, and I could pull up the conversation, and it'd take me a few minutes, but he actually told me that he knew that all the screaming was hurting his voice, but he liked that edge that it gave him, like it made his voice raspier, and he liked it. So hey, I mean. Yeah, he's damaged his voice for sure, but he's okay with it because he likes the sound that it makes. So, that's a choice you make. I'm not saying don't do that, but like don't be surprised later if you do what you want to do with no sort of rhyme or reason about it, and then you come up with damage in the long run. Like I don't want to say I don't have sympathy on people that do these things, but I will say that when you're given the warnings by people, and you choose to ignore them, ultimately when the problems occur, it's your fault. Like people try to tell you like you can't do this forever, you got to change things, and you don't. That's on you. I mean, as a voice teacher, I can't make my students change their vocal approaches. I can listen to what they say, excuse me, and I can say, all right, well, these are changes that are best for you in terms of your sustainability and for your technique and the way you're treating your voice. If you want to make your own music, go make your music. You need to think about these things because you won't make it very long if you don't. Fabio Lione. I've heard the name. Who does he sing for? I feel like I know who that is. I just don't recognize who he sings for. Richelieu. I've never listened to Richelieu. Yeah, who's Fabio Lione sing for? I could look it up. Let me see. Oh, where'd it go? Rhapsody. Angra. Oh, Angra. Okay. Yeah, I've not listened to a lot of them. I listened to them briefly back when Priester was trying out for Dream Theater, but I haven't listened to a lot of them. How did I get into the music industry, and how long have I been singing? Good questions. The music industry, that's kind of a general term because I'm a teacher first and foremost. I know people who are musicians, but I'm not in the industry in the sense of like I don't hit recording studios. Like I work at a music studio, but it's not a music studio as in like people record there. It's a music studio as in like an academy. So I'm not in the industry in the sense of like I don't meet up with famous singers every day and give them voice lessons. I do have some notable names people that I give voice lessons to. I don't know if they want to reveal themselves. I don't want to, like, I've already told you that I've given Robert from Native Construct voice lessons for a while. But there are some other people that I give voice lessons to that are somewhat notable, but I don't know if they want me to reveal it or not. But how long have I been singing? I started singing when I was like 3. When I was 5, I was on a radio. I was on live radio. I sung "Hound Dog" by Led Zeppelin, by Elvis. Obviously, I sung "Hound Dog" by Elvis on the radio. Ever since then, I've always kind of been into singing. It's just something that I've always done, and I got my first. I was singing like church choirs and things like that as I was growing up, where I kind of learned to sight read. I went to all-state choir in 9th grade. I went there every year. I did that every year throughout high school, and then I got my academic advisor / long-term voice teacher. He came to do a recruitment for his college. He was a professor at Augusta State University. His name's Dr. William Hobbins. J. William Hobbins. You can Google him and see his credentials and whatnot. He came to my high school, to do a recruitment. I sung an Italian aria that I was working on learning for some different things, like what was it called? Not literacy. I can't remember what it's called. There's a competition. It was the name's slipping me, but it was like a singing competition, but it was also like writing and like all these different competitions that you could do, and they pick people from your school to represent the school in these competitions. And so I did I was preparing for that, and he came and listened to me sing my aria, and he said, "I want to give you private voice lessons." So I started taking voice lessons with him at his home when I was like 16. That carried through college, when I can keep what is that name of that word? It's going to drive me nuts till I can remember it. Anyway, so he gave me lessons through college. I left college for a while, did some other things, came back and took lessons went to college for another 4 years. And after that, I was actually a store manager at Sprint for a few years, and I stopped working for them, got a job at the Columbia Arts Academy and the Lexington School of Music in Columbia, South Carolina. Worked there for a little over a year. I had to move up to the Atlanta area, and when I moved, the place I work right now was hiring, and I'm there now I teach voice, guitar, drums, and piano. So, but voice is obviously my main thing, and piano and drums are just, I teach kids how to bang on stuff and teach major scales and stuff. Guitar is my second instrument, I would say, if I had to pick them in order. Let's see. Johnny Cash. I haven't listened to a lot of Johnny Cash. The most I've listened to of him is like obviously Ring of Fire. He's a bass, absolutely a bass. And one thing that is good about him is I can say from what I have heard of him is that he stays on the voice and he stays true to his own voice. He doesn't try to change it into something that is not. So I think that that's a really good characteristic of his singing. It's like a quick reaction. If you can't tell our profile, I'm a huge Metallica. How did James Hetfield destroy Elizabeth slowly but surely build a new voice and sound extremely good? Luck. He actually, if I remember right, he started taking voice lessons at some point where they got him to get rid of all the raspy stuff, and they had him rebuild with more of like a clean technique. And I think that's what helped him. There's a point where you can I think there's a point of no return. If you, I think that if you go to past a certain point of singing a certain way, then you will do irreparable damage. And I think somebody caught him at that gap where he hadn't quite hit that yet. And he said, okay, well, I'm going to make these changes because I want to save my voice. I want to keep singing. Let's see. Do you know Glenn Hughes? I've heard the name. I'm not sure. Who does he sing for? Lemmy's voice didn't fall apart earlier. I don't know a whole lot about him, so I mean I've heard a little bit of it, but let's see. Literary competition. That's what it's called. Literary competition. I got it. Anyway, it was bugging me. Now I got it. So his all rainy. I guess you're talking about me. My voice is okay. I sing okay. I'm not as good as I want to be, and I'm not as versatile as I'd like to be. I'd like to be a more versatile singer than I am. Lemmy was the man was a literal tank. The only time his voice comes, he was literally dying. I don't know enough about it. I'd have to listen to some more stuff, honestly. I'm not sure. I can't comment on Lemmy because I don't know a lot about him. I don't want to talk about something I don't know what I'm talking about. I make Zach sing Opeth. Yeah, she makes me sing Opeth for her sometimes. Play drums is cool. Oh, I'm not I can keep a band together and I can play a few like fills, like typical fills, but I am not a drummer in like a huge stretch. I'm good enough to be able to teach like basic rudiments to kids, and I can keep a band together playing something simple. Like if I were if I were going to go to like a show where we played covers, I could probably do a cover show, but like I'm not an exceptional drummer. Josh Wetton, King Crimson. I've never actually stopped and listened. I mean, thought about his singing very much. Listened to it in my head. I know they put a lot of production on his voice for the time, but I've never really sat down and paid attention to his technique. I've listened to King Crimson on and off throughout my life. My dad was a huge King Crimson fan, so I heard a lot of King Crimson, but I never really paid a ton of attention to it until I got older. And I really listened to King Crimson more for the instrumentation and the orchestration than the singing. So I don't really have a strong opinion on him or any real thoughts. Rob Halford. It sounds terrible. I talk about like rock singers and metal singers, but I haven't listened to a ton of Rob Halford either. The style of music, it just didn't really click with me. And because of that, I didn't really listen to his voice. Kind of like Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden's music didn't really click with me, so I never listened to a ton of Bruce Dickinson. I guess it's that super hair metal 80s sound. It just never really clicked with me. Oh, Deep Purple. Let's see. Try to think. I think he's a good singer. I mean, it's an opinion. Academically speaking, I have to sit down and look at something. I can't tell you off the top of his head, but I don't. I mean, I've liked hearing his singing in Deep Purple. Let's see, Tony Martin. Yeah, I don't know who Tony Martin is either. I know that's probably sad. You guys are like, who is this guy? He doesn't know who all these metal singers are. If you ask me about prog singers, I'm going to be a lot more likely to know who they are. The metal stuff. I mean, I've listened to a lot of metal, but I've never really done a lot of like I've never really listened to a lot of the classic metal. Most of the metal stuff I've listened to has been more modern, the progressive stuff, and like the classic stuff I listen to more like rock, like what they consider classic rock. I'm not a big fan of like subgenre categories and stuff like that, but do I think Spencer Sotelo is going to blow his voice out? I don't know if you were here when I was talking about Spencer before, but he already has admitted to me personally that his voice is giving out. And this was years ago when he did that. So yeah, I would imagine so. I think that a lot of what they do is manipulated in the studio anyway. I think that a lot of it has a lot of there's definitely a lot of post-production. Ray Alder from Fate's Warning. I didn't listen to a lot of Fate's Warning either. Pagan's Mind, I've heard of them, and I feel like I've listened to maybe a song or two, but I don't remember enough about them to be able to give a comment on it. Yeah, Fate's Warning. I've listened to a little bit of Fate's Warning, but I guess like I don't know. Maybe my music listening has been a lot more like narrow than I realized because you guys are giving me a lot of names that I'm not familiar with. I'm gonna go back and make a list, add to my list. Rainey's asking me about Maynard. Maynard, he has very straight tone, and as a result, I think that it causes him to push a little bit too much. Throw more names at it. Maybe it'll stick. Oh gosh. Here we go. Let's see. Why do a lot of low baritones try to be basses? Interesting question, because I am what we call a baritone with a bass extension, which means that I have the typical range for baritone, but I have my vocal extension in terms of like where my voice tends to extend to goes downward. So I don't try to be a bass, but if I'm needed to sing in a choir, I can sing bass if I need to. the thing about being a baritone that's unfortunate is that there's not a lot of room for you in like modern rock music. Most people want tenors. Like people like tenors. So we have to take gigs where we can get them, right? So if somebody wants us to be a bass, I mean, and I don't really know, somebody that's in production probably knows better than I do. My head's itching. People who are more into like production can probably tell me better. But from what I've heard, tenors are easier to mix than baritones, but correct me if I'm wrong. Hold on one second. Let's see. Jeff Tate from Queensryche. I think that Jeff Tate, I'm going to make a video on him actually. So maybe I shouldn't talk too much about him. I think that he had good technique when he was younger that I think he abandoned as he got older. And we can go, I think he also had some lifestyle habits that affected his singing as well. But I think that he started out with relatively sound technique. Let's see. Anthrax. Didn't listen to much Anthrax either. Mark Martel. Don't know who that is. Periphery sells the master tracks for their albums, and the vocals are actually relatively untouched by modern standards. Okay. I'd like to hear some of those because I'd like to be able to confirm that. And relatively untouched, what does that mean? Does that mean there's no pitch correction? I mean, like, I'd like to hear it to be able to know for sure. But I mean, like I said, I've had a conversation with Spencer myself where he overtly said that his voice has been damaged already by the things that he does. Let's see. The bass range is kind of rare. A true bass, yes. A true bass is very rare. Most people with low ranges are baritones. Let's see. Geddy Lee. Geddy Lee sings high larynx all the time. Like, I've never heard him use low larynx at all on anything that he's done. When you hear him speak, his singing voice sounds drastically different from his speaking voice. So I would say that he probably has been using unsafe technique for a long time. But he's managed to sustain it. I don't think that his top end live is all that great anymore. But he's, the stuff that you would consider his mid voice, which is someone else is still really high. His mid voice he's done relatively well. Didn't listen to a lot of Typo Negative. I think I've heard maybe one or two songs. Can poor diet affect your voice? Absolutely. Lack of hydration. Lactose, all sorts of. I mean, I should probably make a video on that subject alone one day. But the thing is, the videos that get the most views are the ones talking about singers. So until my channel grows enough to where I can kind of like do my own thing and have an audience that's like large and consistent, and I won't have some big tail off if I make a video of my own content, I have to kind of stick to making live singers. But yeah, that's coming for sure. It's a huge topic, but in a simple answer, yes, your diet absolutely affects your voice 100%. Mark Martell's probably known as the man who sounds just like Freddie Mercury. Yeah, I'm not familiar. Maybe it'd be too generous. There's definitely pitch correction, but I don't think he's egregious. He's still very good live, I'd imagine. Yeah, probably so. You can only sing the way he does with so much force and pressure for so long before he gets damaged. It's a hallmark of metal singing. It's just a part. It comes with the territory. M Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold destroyed his voice. I've listened to a little bit of Avenged Sevenfold, but that really straightforward metal sound never really stuck with me. Blind Guardian. I've listened to Blind Guardian a little bit when I was in high school, but not enough to remember a whole lot about his singing. So I caught up. Woo! I love all the comments, guys. It's awesome. It gives me content to talk about. So, but yeah, hopefully it's like a quick run through of all that stuff right off the top of my head. I've got a few things I need to check out for sure. Is there anything else you guys would like for me to discuss? I mean, I plan to be on for another 10 minutes or so. Let's see. What was the problem with Summer? He never drank on tour. Could never reduce raspiness. He was very heavy and close to obese. There's my answer. Well, being heavy isn't necessarily that's not necessarily a bad thing. Pavarotti was overweight. He was a big guy, but like he was the most technically proficient singer ever. So your weight doesn't have as much to do with your singing as you might think. So you can't necessarily correlate the two. Health overall, it can be tied to weight, but you can still sing with a healthy technique even if your body isn't physically healthy. Event Sevenfold's going more prog direction now. Okay, I'll have to check it out. If you have an album recommendation, let me know. I'll listen to it. I know the Protest Hero guy recently. Yeah. I actually just talked about Rody not too long ago, just about 30 minutes ago or so, where I talked about that. Yeah, he's having surgery because he's throwing his voice out. I would call Avenged Sevenfold straight metal. Wouldn't. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe I haven't listened to them to know. Like I said, give me some recommendations. If you have something that I should start with to listen to that's not as straightforward. Everything I've ever heard by them sounded very straightforward to me. So just let me, give me some suggestions. I have a fun question. Possible. What non-metal vocalist would you like to hear sing metal music? Huh. Interesting question. Non-metal vocalist I'd like to hear sing metal music. I would be interested in hearing. Well, he's kind of outside of his prime now. Rolando Villazon. I wonder what he would sound like if he sung in metal. But he's passed. He's kind of like had some vocal issues himself. He's an opera singer. I'd be interested in hearing what he would sound like in a metal setting. That would probably be pretty. He had a powerful voice, and he was a dramatic operatic tenor. So I would love to hear his sound in like a metal setting. It'd probably be pretty cool. Let's see. What do you think about Steve Harwell from? Okay, we're going this way. This is where we're going, huh? All right. Do this more often. Rolando Villazon. Yep, he's amazing. I don't like the way he stands when he sings. He kind of has this like stiff sort of thing. Like he's a little too stiff. It's probably his acting. I don't think he's that great of an actor necessarily, but he's an incredible voice. Absolutely incredible voice. Thomas Hampson in his prime was incredible too. I wonder how he would have sounded in a metal setting. Let's see. To do this more often. Well, yeah, I don't want it to wear out his welcome. Like I enjoy doing this too, but I want you guys to I don't want it to be like, oh, there goes Zach doing another live stream. I want it to be something that you guys look forward to. So that's why I'm not doing it quite as much. Maybe I should implement it more. If this is getting a lot of great feedback and I've got a lot of people checking this out. So maybe you're right. Maybe I should do it more. Oh, Randy's asking me, do all singers who sing horribly end up getting nodules at the point? Not necessarily nodules. Nodules are one thing that can go wrong. There's a ton of vocal disorders you can develop from bad singing habits. The stage. Okay, I'll check it out. I've heard Nightmare, I think. That's the one with Mike Portnoy, right? Let's see. Mario Frungle. I don't know who that is. Yeah, check out Orlando Villazon. Yep. Greg Puciato from. Okay, so I've seen Dillinger live. I saw them live on Gigantour. I think it was 2006, and that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. I've actually a story about that. When they were playing, there was one. He had a water bottle on stage, and he just chucked the water bottle, just chucked it, and the way that the venue was set up was the light booth was kind of it wasn't up in the top back like most of them are. It was kind of like the I don't know if it was the sound booth or the light booth. It was right above the crowd. It was the crowd was down here, but the booth was right here. But it was in the middle. You'd have to see it to understand what I'm saying. But he chucked the bottle, and it flew straight into the light booth. And water just splashed everywhere, and you could see the sound guys panicking, trying to wipe it down and not let water get all over his stuff. I remember that show. I watched it and I was like, "What are these guys doing? What is going on here?" It was wild. Let's see. Second non-metal vocalist. Thomas Hampson. Thomashmpson. He's a operatic baritone. If you want to see some like true vocal virtuosity, look up Largo al Factotum, and I'll type it here. And Thomas Hampson. Now that is a killer performance. And the cool thing about opera to me is that, and I don't like singing opera that much. I'm not a huge fan of singing opera. My voice is developed that way, but I don't really enjoy it. The cool thing about opera though is, opera is everything's live. Like there's no editing at all, none whatsoever. It's all like done live. So you can't fake it. There's no post-production. Like what you put out is what you put out. They don't put post-production on it. So I love the realness of opera and them singing. So see, ironically, despite having Marco Francolis is a Greek opera classical singer. Let me see, because maybe I do know Mario. Maybe I do know who he is. I'm looking at him right now. Sorry, guys. Okay. He's got an interesting career. It's not Yeah, I'll have to look into him more. His career is very interesting. It kind of takes a couple of different trajectories from when I quickly saw. That's interesting. I'll check him out. Ironically, despite importing on Nightmare, I thought the drums from Brooks Wackerman on the stage were more loose and progressive, despite him being known as straight rock drummer. The one with the strange embouchure, not strange. I don't know. Are you talking about Thomas Hampson? I don't think that Thomas Hampson had strange embouchures. Bryn Terfel has some strange embouchures. Oh, thanks. That Chris Cornell video was I had to cut things down so much to avoid the copyright thing. Like I wish I could just let it all play, but I can't do it every time. Like every time I do that, my videos get blocked. So Portland Played was already composed by the Rev. Yeah, I don't know who that. I'd have to listen. I don't know who you. I'd have to hear the comparison of the two. So I'll check out the stage for sure. Who knows? Maybe I should do a reaction video. No, I've been straying away from the reaction video thing. I feel like that's a fad, and I feel like what will happen is eventually people are going to look at be looking at people's channels and say, reaction videos are and so I want my videos to be kind of more universal. A video on Russell Allen. I already did a video on Russell Allen. I already did that. So same for the Earthside song. She likes Crater. Crater was who sung Crater? Who was one that sung Crater? Who knows Earthside? No? Not Crater? The one with the orchestra? Because the orchestra one's Mob Mentality. And that's LaJohn Witherspoon. He's the guy that sung for Seven Dust. He was I think I love Earthside and I love that album, but I honestly think that performance had a ton of post-production on it. I would like to hear him sing it live, which will never happen because they don't do that. Okay, Tadia, a Nightwish. Okay, so this is something that I've gotten a lot of requests for, comparing the Nightwish singers. And I don't know Nightwish well enough to be able to distinguish them in my head, sorry. But I've listened to all three of them, and there's one of them, Floor, is who it was, Floor. Floor was by far the most technically proficient of the singers, by far. There was one of them that definitely was a step down in terms of like technical skill. I don't mean like the way that she sounds. I mean like her technical skill was lower. And there was one that was in the middle. But Floor was definitely the most technically proficient. There was the video that I saw that there was the video that I found that had Floor and one of the other girls from Nightwish singing together. And both of them were the more technically proficient. But there was the one that wasn't there was the one that was definitely the least technically proficient singer of them all. Maybe I should do that video as a comparison. I haven't listened to a ton of Nightwish. I mean, I've heard them on and off throughout my life, but I've never listened to a ton. But I've heard little clips of Floor, and I do think that she has very sound technique. Floor so there's Tadia, Floor, and who is the other one? I can't remember the other singer's name. I can't remember. I'm sure you guys can help me out with that. Annette Olsen? I don't remember. Maybe that. I think that Tadia and Floor were the two that were the most technically proficient. I think there's a reason that those names stuck out to me is because they were the ones that were the most proficient singers. They had distinctly different techniques, and they're definitely different voice types, which I found interesting that they fit into the same music, singing the same songs, because they're drastically different singers. If I were casting for an opera, I definitely would not put them. I would not put them as the same voice part at all. So it's interesting, but they're both technically proficient. But I think Floor was more technically proficient. Cornell with some alcohol problems, Audio Slave era effect. Yeah, I haven't listened to a lot of his Audio Slave stuff. Star One, Russell Allen, Floor Jansen, Don Swano, and Damian Wilson singing. Interesting. Oh, Arion, actually, I guess I can. So one of the guys that's reached out to me to give voice lessons to is someone who sings in Arion. I don't know if he wants me to reveal who he is or not, but I've listened to quite a bit of Arion because of him reaching out to me. But yeah, so I've gotten familiar with his singing in particular. But yeah, I don't want to just name drop without his permission, so I'm not going to do that. He's a cool guy, great voice. Like he's untrained, which is what blows my mind when I hear him sing this one in particular. He's untrained. He's got a killer voice. It's cool. Adam Gontier from 3 Days Grace is 3 Days Grace. Is that like that pop punk band? Am I getting them mixed up with somebody else? Hello? You guys there? You got quiet. Yeah, 3 Days Grace sounds alt rock. Yeah, I think I've heard them when I was like in high school or something, but is never like I never listened to them extensively. I'm the kind of person that when I kind of latch onto music and I get really, really deeply into it, and I kind of like blot out the rest of the world in terms of my musical stuff. Laurie Le Prenant. Did I say that wrong? Laurie Le Prenant from Igor. Hey, Jordan. What's up, man? Jordan's a longtime friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. He's an incredible guitarist. The dude is like, he undersells himself how good he is, but he's extremely good, and he's a really cool guy. What's up, Jordan? Thanks for stopping in, man. Claudio Sanchez from Coheed and Cambria is the reason I started singing. I saw them live and moved me so much to take up singing. So Claudio, I haven't I've listened to some Coheed. I don't like the sound of his voice. His technique, I haven't heard them live, so I don't know. But I don't like the sound of his voice. It sounds unnatural to me. It sounds to me like he's singing higher than his voice naturally sits, which is really bad for you. Like if you try to manipulate your voice into doing something that is not natural, you usually run into problems in the long term. but I don't want to conclusively say anything because I'm not familiar enough with him. I'm just telling you from the tiny bits I've heard, and I've never heard him live, so I don't know. Do you know an exercise to develop the top of your chest voice? It always sounds very airy. So top of your chest voice is where you're moving into what we call the passaggio. The passaggio is the point of passage between the chest voice and the head voice. If it sounds airy, then that means that you probably are covering the sound as you move up the voice. A good exercise to work on moving from your falsetto to your chest voice, and I probably can't do my throat is very dry. I need to get some water, actually. I'll try to do this first. But so if I butcher this, I'll go wet my whistle, as we call it, and then I'll come back and try it again. So you can do like this to kind of work on moving the top end of the chest voice. So you start in your falsetto with the top, and you go, and you do like that, and you make the transition between the two as smooth as you possibly can. And what will happen is you'll find that the spot in between is a lot clearer, and it's a lot easier to sort of move in and out of it. That's just one quick tip. Now, that may not apply to you. I don't know your voice, but that's the like a go-to way to work on connecting your head voice with your chest voice and making it sound full and consistent. But you know, everybody's different, so I can't say conclusively in your case. I'd have to sit down and work with you on it to know exactly what's causing the airy sound. It could be that you're putting too much air through. It could be that the sound's too far back. I don't know. I'd have to hear your voice specifically. Rainey wants me to sing live. Oh, maybe one day. Adam is in St. Antonio now, which is more. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Roy Khan. That's another one I get asked about all the time. Khan, you know, I don't know enough about. I've listened to a little bit of Camelot, but here's a question for you guys. Why is Roy Khan such a figure that people want me to talk about? Like I hear, what's the deal with him? Is there something that I'm like missing? While you're typing, I'm going to go get a drink of water. I'll be right back. Okay, let's see. My guess would be that Roy Khan was their singer when Camelot got the most popular. I'm not like a mega fan, so could be wrong. Yeah, I don't know. But I tell you what, it seems like every single video that I make, people are like, can you analyze Roy Khan? So let's see. Camelot's here nowadays. Yeah, I don't listen to enough Camelot to know. Like I don't know. I'd have to listen to it. Projection's awesome. He really defied Camelot. Okay, well, as you're here first here, I promise you I will do a video on Roy Khan. I know nothing about him, but I'm going to go into it completely blind. I'm going to make a video on it. That's a promise. I think Dream Theater will get rid of Liberty? No, absolutely not. He is their sound, like it or not. He's not going anywhere. He's their sound, and they just won't. Listen to any Gojira? No, I have not listened to Gojira. What exactly is the head voice? Okay, so okay. Ugh. All right, so this is super hypocritical. I'm going to say it right now. Don't trust the internet, okay? I'm the internet, but don't trust the internet. There's so much crap out there talking about the voice. The head voice is simply where there's a tiny space that is created at the top of the vocal folds when they vibrate. It's a tiny little opening, just little bitty, where an extra flow of air can go through. Excuse me. And that allows for you to make a different range of pitches. Okay. The head voice is the top with a falsetto. Okay. That's head voice, right? That's your head voice sound. None of all the screaming that you hear that's like really like full, that's what we call reinforced falsetto. That's a push. Okay, so head voice is not a push. Head voice is just a separation of the folds in a certain place that creates a different timbre of sound. Okay, that's not an opinion. That's fact. So if people say anything other, I can show you tons of articles from NATS, which is the National Association of Teachers Singing. So and where they do peer review and show you all. That's science. It's just a separation of the vocal folds at the top end, and it's extension of the cricoarytenoid muscle. And what happens is it creates this lighter sound on the top end. That's all it is. It's a different. So you got 3 registers. You got your fry register, which is like this. This is your fry register. You got your modal register, which is your speaking voice, and then you've got your head voice or your falsetto. And that's all it is. And that's a good question. I seem exasperated about it because there's so much bad information out there that it's like it's frustrating that people come confused about it when it's simple. I think people that don't know what they're talking about try to make themselves seem smarter than they are when it's just a mechanism in the body. That's all it is. It's nothing super like mysterious. He supposedly had opera training. I'll check him out for sure. I'll check Ross Jennings from Haken. So full disclosure, I used to be a huge Haken fan. I mean, like I used to love Haken. They were like my favorite prog band. But I had kind of a, no problem. I had a little bit of a spat with their keyboardist. It wasn't anything super major, but we had a little disagreement at one point, and I guess the way he handled it sort of rubbed me the wrong way. And ever since then, I've kind of been down on Haken a little bit. And so, I mean, it wasn't, I might be overthinking it. It wasn't like something monumental. It's just a little small thing. But we had a little bit of a dispute about something, and the way he handled it just kind of like Diego just sort of like, it's sort of like they say, don't meet your heroes because, it ends up like it's kind of one of those things where I really looked up to them and really looked up to their music, and I've been a big fan. And I've told so many people about their music. Like even before they were popular, I was super into Haken, and I was telling everybody, listen to Haken. And then when this thing happened, it just kind of was like, well, that's like, okay, thanks, man. And so Ross, to specifically talk about Ross, I like how they have his voice utilized in the music. I like how they arrange the singing. His technique is way outside the lines of what I would call healthy, though. And there's several reasons. And I've thought about making a video on him, but it's kind of more of a personal thing. I think about Haken nowadays, and my whole views is kind of peppered, I guess. So when it makes me kind of reluctant to make a video about him. Maybe I just, I should probably reach out to them and try to talk to about it. Maybe that'll make it all better. Who knows? Mark Hudson from Dragon Force. I've never seen them live, so I don't know. From what I hear from their studio recordings, it sounds like he sings with high larynx a lot, typical of this like metal singing thing. He uses a lot of reinforced falsetto, like really pushed head voice. I don't know how he sounds live though, and I haven't seen them live, so I'm not sure. Let's see. You seem to stress that singing in the modal register is optimal. Yes, singing in the modal register is the optimal way of singing because, as I said earlier, singing is like sprinting, right? So if you move into different registers, you're taking part of the mechanism out, like part of the muscular mechanism out of the process of singing. So this is a rough analogy. So it's the first thing I came to on the top of my head. It's not perfect, but think of singing in a different register than modal one is like trying to run on one leg. Like you're taking things away. So the reason that the modal voice projects the most is because it's what happens when the chords fully close and the voice is fully functioning and fully resonating and coordinated in the most natural way. So I think my opinion, well, it's opinion, but it's backed by science, is that when you use your voice in ways that are outside of the natural mechanism, you tend to cause bad habits. Doing it some is okay, but like if you need to use your head voice, it's fine. Like a lot of my exercise I've done have used head voice. There's nothing wrong with singing in your head voice, but like singing in your head voice is fine. But when you start trying to push in other registers, that's when you have problems. The head voice is a natural function. It's just not something that you should do all the time. It's the reason I don't walk around talking like this all the time. We don't do that. It's not good for you because it causes an unnatural coordination. It's like bending your arm backwards, like, ow, I could do that, a little bit. My arm popped, you can do that a little bit, but like, you don't walk around with your arm bent backwards. Just It's not natural. So natural is good. The things that your body naturally does are the most optimal ways of singing in terms of sustainability. Gingerbread man from Shrek. That's funny. Avatar. Yeah, never listened to them. Joey Tempest from Europe. You know, I would say that a lot of these singers of that genre, like that tenor, that dramatic tenor sound, they all have similar vocal technique and similar habits. High larynx, reinforced falsetto, really push sound. That's the best way that I could describe it. Make a video on how to sing as close to your speaking voice as you have said before. So yeah, it's a lot more simple than I think people realize. And the thing is, so many of these like online voice teachers talk about making yourself sound how you want and whatever. Singing is speaking on pitch. Singing is speaking on pitch. You're just speaking and you're choosing what pitch you use when you speak. That's all that singing is. So if you approach singing from that perspective, the whole process will be easier. Like if you go into singing like, oh, I want to sound this specific way, then like, it's so much harder because you're not doing what's natural. If you just do what's natural, it's easy. This is the best voice teachers, in my opinion, are the ones who take that approach. Make your voice do what it does naturally. Don't do things that aren't natural because it's going to hurt you. If you find in time that there are certain things that you can manage on your own, that's cool. But it's always best to have a base fundamental of safe habits. Anyway, so let's keep going. Meshuggah. Oh yeah. Actually, Meshuggah is interesting because I don't know how he's maintained all that screaming throughout his life. I have no idea. Maybe he should do a case study on himself. I don't know. Tuvan throat singing. Whoa. I don't know how they do that stuff. I don't know. I don't know how they do it. But Tuvan throat singing, what's actually, I've listened to it before, and what's actually happening is they're manipulating their formant frequency by changing their embouchure. So they're changing their internal, like the embouchure inside their mouth, and they're kind of changing the shape of the vocal tract to manipulate the to manipulate the formant over the top. These are tongues, roots, and mouth. Yeah, resonance chamber. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the resonance chamber is like manipulation of the vocal tract, and the formant frequency is created when there's a certain laryngeal tilt and like physical setup in the throat. So if you can change your embouchures or the vocal tract, the resonance chamber, so to speak, while you got that laryngeal tilt and you stay on one pitch, it'll create the sound of two different pitches happening at once. Opera singers use this to project. It's actually a technique that opera singers use as well. Peruvian butt singing. Okay, I've never heard that before. That's a new one. That's a new one. I'm going to go about 8 more minutes, guys. I've actually gone longer than I wanted to, but it's great because you guys are still chatting. This is going really well. Yodel. Okay, yodeling's really bad for you, by the way. Michael Bublé. So jazz singing is a totally different beast. Jazz singing... And Michael Bublé is like not fully a jazz. He's not like Orange Blossoms in Summertime. What's that dude's name? Let me look it up. It's Kurt Elling. Yeah. So like I wouldn't consider Kurt Elling and Michael Bublé to be the same. It's Michael Bublé, he uses, okay, so one thing I will say about him is that his tone is natural. I don't think that he sings outside of the way that he speaks. This could be controversial, but from what I've heard of him, I think that his technique is probably objectively healthier than a lot of metal singers that I hear. I'm not a huge fan of the sound of the music, but I think that his approach to singing is probably healthier than a lot of metal singers. Daniel Tompkins. So yeah, I've listened to Daniel Tompkins. I've seen a couple of live performances of him. The hallmark characteristic that I took away from Daniel Tompkins in his singing is that it was very tense. He had a lot of facial tension, a lot of pushing. And so we'll see how that affects his voice in the long run. We'll see. Bubla's a crooner, yeah. Trying to be so natural, yeah. I've not listened to a lot of Bjork. I've listened to like maybe I don't know 2 songs in my life, so I don't know enough to be able to have a comment. Michael Bolton. So same, I would classify Michael Bolton in the same category as like the Final Countdown dude. That whole style and from that era. Tom Jones. Not familiar with Tom Jones. Gotta give me some examples. By the way, if I'm going to give myself a quick plug in these last 5 minutes. I do have a Patreon. If you guys are wanting to, subscribe, that'd be awesome. It's already going really well, but the subscribing as a patron gets you a few other benefits and things. I also offer voice lessons. Voice lessons I promise you, they're affordable. Let's see. Whistle register it's a rare phenomenon in women. I would say that a lot of people act like they have whistle register when they really don't. And the way that you can check as a voice teacher is get them to take the pitch they call whistle voice and glissando or slide it downwards. And if the register doesn't change when they move down, it's not whistle register. Yes, it's healthy if you can naturally do it, but not everybody can do it. It's got to be natural. But yeah, true whistle register is very rare. Tompkins has some live in studio videos too, where he's less expressive in the face. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. What was abrupt? What happened? You guys, is everything cool? Can you guys hear me? Give me a thumbs up or something. Oh, okay. So it's okay. Okay, cool. Weird. Okay, well, it's good now. Phil Anselmo's voice completely. Yeah, I talked about him a little while ago. I haven't heard enough of him live to know for sure. I'm not sure. Nina Simone. Oh, Nina Simone. Oh, duh. I actually Nicholas, who was in the stream a little while ago, he was working on a Nina Simone song. Feeling Good, I think it was. I think he was working on that song. But yeah, so go back to plugging myself because I'm so important. Yeah, I do give voice lessons. If you want voice lessons, hit me up. You can just leave a comment in any of my videos. I'll see it, anything like that. Send me an email. My email address is zansley1@gmail.com. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's systolic1. I don't use Instagram a ton, but if you can always do that if you want to follow me and just kind of see what I'm up to. There's a couple little recordings of me on there. What else? There's Patreon. Please subscribe to Patreon. It helps me out a ton. Patrons get little benefits like you can request singers, and you get if you at a certain level you get voice lessons with me. Anything like that. And I don't mean to be a beggar. The channel's growing on its own. My goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers and then see where it goes from there. But the support that you guys have given me so far has just been amazing. It's awesome. I look forward every day to checking out what new things you guys have to say on the comments of my videos and stuff. So it sounds super cheesy and it gets some sentimental for a minute, but I feel like doing this is giving me kind of like a renewed sort of purpose to my life in some ways. Cause not that I was down in the dumps or anything, far from it, but this kind of invigorates what I do anyway, what I've devoted my life to doing professionally, because you get a lot of pushback from people when you start talking about being a voice teacher and you start talking about teaching people to sing. People immediately respond by saying oh, well, what's up with teaching people to sing? Why don't they just sing how they want to? But the truth is that my goal as an educator in voice is to make people better and to help them sing longer and be able to make their art for longer times than they were able to before. So it's cool to see that people are receptive of that. And I don't just get a lot of oh, well, you think you're so great. You think you know so much. You can't tell me how to sing. Because honestly, I thought that was going to be what happened when the whole James Labrie video was made. I thought I would just get a bunch of people saying oh, well, you're not a professional singer in the way he is. How do you know what you're talking about? But it's been totally the opposite. You guys have latched onto this stuff. So I'm really grateful, and I promise that I'll keep putting out content. And I'd love to, make this channel get bigger. And James Labrie, Jordan, have you watched my James Labrie video? You should watch it. You should watch my video. It's pretty comprehensive about his singing. There's a bug. Yeah, it's long, but it does a pretty comprehensive analysis of his singing. Yeah, I mean, he's riding on his last legs. I mean, he's in the twilight of his career for sure at this point, and there's not a whole lot you can't do anything about it. That's just kind of how it is. I mean, he wore his voice out when he was younger. He's episode Geddy Leo's voice change for sure. Yeah, I talked about Geddy Lee a little bit already. Yeah, I probably will make a video on him at some point for sure. Like my beard, I need to trim it. It's like patchy. Haken told, yeah, I talked about Haken a little while ago too. I had a little spat with Diego, and ever since that happened, I've just haven't really been able to, I haven't been able to get back on board with him after I had that little spat with Diego. Hey, James Caleb, as I know him. What's up, man? Steve Perry, that's another one on my list. My list is so long. You have no idea. I have so many singers I have to analyze. I've got to make videos on. I try to make one a week, so I have been making one a week. So thanks, man. Yeah, this is for my YouTube channel. In case you haven't seen my channel, is kind of growing. It's just about singing and voice lessons and whatnot. So I try to periodically do a live stream on here just so that my viewers can ask questions about my content and whatnot. And it's pretty successful. This one's been way more. I mean, my last one was good for a first time, but I've probably had well over 100 viewers in this on and off. I mean, because I've been watching the number and it's been fluctuating a lot. So there's been a lot of people coming in and out. So thanks for dropping by. You caught me at the tail end. I'm actually about to take off. So, but thanks for dropping by, everybody. I'll put when the video processes is up on the page. I'll put the Patreon. That's okay, man. Just stopping by is awesome. I'll put the link to my Patreon in the comments. And if you want voice lessons, hit me up. I got spots available. I got a few. So please hit me up. Yeah, no problem, Leonardo. Thanks for stopping. You stuck through the whole thing, man. You're a trooper. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for spending your time with me. And I will, I'll be making videos. And if you guys want this to be something that's like more frequent, if you want me to do this more often, then I can, give me some feedback. Let me know. Comment on my videos and tell me like what you guys want to see more of and things that I can do more on the channel, because I have tons of content, but I want to give you guys what you want. So, all right. Thanks again, guys. You all take care, and I will see you all in my next video. Thanks for stopping by. You guys are awesome. Take care.